Next up, we have our friends at Flatiron School and a new app called Learn. So, Avi, come on up.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm Avi. I'm one of the founders of Flatiron School. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with what we do, but around 3.5 years ago, my co-founder and I, Adam, set out to prove that education could actually be effective and deliver tangible outcomes in the form of jobs. So over the last 3.5 years, we've trained over 1,000 people in how to program and gotten them basically all jobs. As far as I know, we're still the only school that has a verified third-party audited jobs report that says that when I tell you that we have a 99% placement rate, we have accountants that audit that every year, so we're not making it up. And then, over the last 3 years, we were looking at online education, and we kind of found another market where it's just tremendously ineffective. People celebrate a 4% completion rate on all these online platforms, and we've been looking at what makes Flatiron School successful in terms of how we teach people how to program and how we get people jobs. And we sort of distilled it into these 3 core theses about how people learn in a tremendously effective, outcome-oriented manner. And we've packaged all of those ideas into a platform that I'm really happy to tell you about tonight called Learn. When I think about the internet and online education, I think most people just basically felt that the way to do online education is you put a camera in front of a classroom and you record the lecture and you put it online, and that's called online education, which is kind of really similar to how people first felt about film and movies. When the motion picture camera came out in the 1900s, people basically just made movies by putting a camera in front of a play, recording it, and saying this is a movie. And then editing and continuity and all these other great things brought that medium to life and gave it power beyond what it could do. No one is really doing that with online education. It's really just taking a classroom and trying to put it online, but no one's really leveraging technology in an interesting way. So the 3 things that make Learn different when you're learning how to program on our platform are basically, the first thing is called Real Tools. So this is what Learn looks like. And you're looking at a lab, and there's some content, and there's a video, and you can read all about it. But the next thing is that when you're mostly learning how to program online, you're learning these really contrived environments. You're programming in a browser known as a REPL. And in the same way that you couldn't learn to become a surgeon without ever picking up a scalpel, you just can't learn to program if you don't ever actually use like a terminal or a text editor or test-driven development or Git or GitHub. So when you work on Learn, you can click Open. This is a lab, so you need to build kind of an array that makes a tic-tac-toe board. And you click Open, and we're basically forking that lab for you on GitHub and popping up your local text editor and environment. And now you're ready to program. And this is my 3rd demo at New York Tech Meetup, and I always manage to be writing code in front of all of you. So I apologize. But that would build a tic-tac-toe board. And then I can run Learn, and you can see that my test suite passes. And then when I go back to the platform, you can see that Learn knows that I've forked this lab correctly. I've run my local test suite, and now it's time for me to submit this lab. So I type in Learn Submit. And what that's actually doing is creating staging, committing, and pushing my code to GitHub and creating a pull request for me, which then our instructors can review, and now you can actually move on to the next lab. So that's kind of one of the premises of Learn, is that if you're going to learn how to program, you should actually be using the same tools that developers use every day. You should be learning the craft as close to how you practice the craft in the real world. So that was kind of the first thing we realized about online education, is that no one is really trying to actually force you to program. They're making it really easy, but education should be a struggle. You should have to challenge yourself to learn something. The next thing is that all of our curriculum is open source. So this is GitHub, and if you're not familiar with that, it's awesome. It's important, I promise. But this is all of our curriculum, and we have around 4,000 pieces of discrete content for learning how to program, from high school ages to adults getting jobs that are just totally open sourced. And having an open source curriculum on Learn has 2 major benefits. This is one of our students on Learn. Her name is Ashley. And this is what her Learn profile looks like. And if you're familiar with online education, you might be familiar with a concept like a nano degree or a badge, and all these kind of like contrived abstractions for the credential and the skill you're learning. And this Learn profile, it's kind of like an abstraction too. Like, sure, you can see all of Ashley's work and you can see how long it took her and what she's done and things like that. But more importantly, every time you do work on Learn, you're actually creating a GitHub profile. So you can see exactly when Ashley actually started learning on Learn. And all of this curriculum, all the labs and all the code she wrote is actually transparent and accessible to the entire world, so that you don't have to believe me when I tell you Ashley can program. You can just look at the 400 labs she solved during her progress on Learn. The other great thing about open curriculum is that it creates this really amazing thing where we don't have to maintain all of the content ourselves. So I make a lot of typos when I write curriculum, and if any students, if anybody, whether it's an employer or another programmer student, finds a problem with a lab, because all of our content's just on GitHub, you can just actually just click Edit and say, hi, NYTM, and then just submit a pull request to improve our curriculum. And now when you look at this lab on GitHub, you're going to see that there's the pull request where a student can actually contribute to our curriculum in the exact same way that all of open source code works. It's just, pull requests and forking in GitHub, which is to say that we want to really build the Wikipedia of curriculum. Why isn't the whole world contributing and creating a canonical best way to learn how to program? And building on top of GitHub and Git has allowed us to actually iterate on curriculum at a tremendous pace. And then the third thing that really makes Learn different, which boggled my mind because I do a lot of online education, I've made more friends playing Counter-Strike online than I have doing online education, which is kind of weird because most of my friends in life come from high school and college and classes and discussion, and that's when we look around the Flatiron campus, what we really see is the dialogue and the connections people have when they're learning. So when you have a problem on Learn and you're stuck, you know the answer, you can just ask a question. So I can say, hey, does anyone want to say hi to the New York Tech Meetup? Tell us where you're at. And that question just went in real time to the entire platform. So you don't have to asynchronously post to a forum or schedule time with a mentor. You can just, say things and chat with people and actually solve things together and meet each other and form that, special bond that happens when two people help each other learn something they didn't know. So yeah, those are kind of the three things that make Learn different. We're really excited about being able to guarantee people jobs, where we'll say that anyone who completes our curriculum that over 1,000 people have completed and gotten jobs through, if you can complete that, we'll guarantee you a job or we'll give you your money back because we failed you somehow if you can't get a job. But, we don't think that's going to happen because we've been doing this for 4 years and we know what we're doing. So that's Learn. We're really excited to share with you guys. You guys should sign up or tell your friends.
Awesome. All right, who has questions? First hand right here, gentleman in glasses.
I'm so excited.
Avi, the question is how do you how do you get them the training wheels off and get them into more advanced learning?
Yeah, that's actually exactly how we call those features. We call them training wheels. The 10th time that you click that Learn Open button, we actually pop up a lesson that tells you how to actually fork and how to get cloned. So that's all an abstraction on top of the Git CLI. Because I think with online education, people try to build tricycles. They try to build something that's really easy to use and ride. And then you get on the tricycle and you're like, oh my God, I'm riding a tricycle. You got to build a bike with training wheels. You got to build something that is easy to use at first, but the second you understand the motion of it, you can kick off those training wheels and get fluency and get speed. And building on top of tools like Git and on top of a real environment allows us to actually implement those abstractions in a really natural way.
Great. Next question. Right up here. So the question is how do you decide which language you want to learn, and how do you know that it's actually going to be similar to what you're doing in the real world?
In the beginning, I would say that the first language you learn isn't really that important as long as you understand the concepts of programming. Part of Learn is kind of organizing that linearity of content. And again, we can tell you that if you finish this, this is what the market demands. Our students get jobs like almost immediately the second they graduate. So we know that our curriculum is market aligned. We work with employers to constantly iterate it and add to it. It's a living curriculum. And then, in terms of, it's hard when you learn a program entirely online through a lot of these really simple tools. You can actually complete all of them and never know that a program is a file on your computer that is run through an interpreter, which is like, just step one of programming, right? Make a file and run it through an interpreter. And as long as you're programming in these contrived environments, you're going to miss those really key moments. And then we have around, I would say, 800 hours of curriculum in that track. It's really hard to find that kind of depth and rigor on these other online platforms. So we're going to take you from zero to the point of employment, again, where we can confidently say that if you finish this curriculum, we will guarantee you a job. Like, it will happen. But it won't be easy.
Great.